Ready, go. Awesome.
We're really on it, so.
That was really good. That'll be on YouTube. Wonderful. Okay, well, thank you guys so much for jumping into it. Really great. This is always the highlight of the week for me, is getting to connect with all of you and hopefully not mess up any time zones. I'm sorry, Jada. I kept on missing Atlantic time. I went from Eastern to Newfoundland for some reason, so thanks for filling in that gap. And yeah, so I think the idea for today is just to get a really good start on applied student research, building the understanding of what it can do for your programming and the university, and to really take a pragmatic perspective of how you can integrate it into your work this summer, while at the same time really making it enhance your work and not take away from it, and very cautiously plan it so that during the year, when you have far, far, far less time, it can be managed. Research, building the understanding of what to do for your programming.
Wow, here.
Okay, awesome. Sorry, I was getting a huge echo. I'm just going to data. Okay, so then that's all good. The only other, yeah, and then the idea was just to get a little bit of feedback on the toolkit, and for you guys to share ideas before. I know Julie's been involved with applied student research. Les was actually in a class that had to do with it, so sharing your experiences on that as well will be really, really helpful. Sorry, I'm just...
I'm back to normal.
Good. Sorry, yeah.
It's so overwhelming, though. I was like, what's going on?
All right, good. Awesome. So you can live watch it. It's all, yeah. Wonderful. Okay, so then, yeah, so that's sort of the goal for today. Any questions or thoughts or anything that would be useful to talk over instead, or in relation to that general open agenda?
Sounds good on this end.
Okay, great. So, yeah, first off, I would love to do a bit of what's cooking, what's going really well, and what's a little bit of tough meat on campus, or tough beans, just to get a little bit of a glimmer into what everyone's up to. And yeah, we'll start there. So how about we start with you, Jada?
Oh, okay. So, I actually, last year I worked on one of the projects in one of the classes, so I already kind of have an idea of how you work on it and how you go about it. But so we have a couple classes that we are going to do next year, which is cool. But I think the biggest struggle for me is what do you do with the research after, and how feasible is it to have our own seeds library at Dal, and what are the best approaches? Who would find this information interesting? So that's my biggest difficulty.
Great question. Hopefully we can dig into that a bit more.
Cool.
And any other things going on at Dal that you want to share out?
Okay. I thought it was just this. We're focusing on a week and trying to get all local food for a week, and so we're trying to figure that out. And what else are we working on? We're trying to figure out commissioner position within the Dalhousie Student Union, and where would that go, and who can pay for it. And we're looking into having green guides. We have green guides at Dalhousie before, but I'm talking to the College of Sustainability to reprint them and update them and have a more emphasis on food. So that's kind of exciting.
Cool. Great. Perfect. Thank you so much. Okay, Julie.
On food. Yes, so lots going on at the U of M. I think one of the biggest areas we're working on that's related to a few different components is our campus food strategy. And so we did have 6 or 7 students work on some ASR projects related to the baseline for the campus food strategy, and now we're just trying to translate that information into I guess, usable information because the project for their class wasn't as specific as what we needed. And so we're trying to figure out a way to, yeah, take what they did and turn it into something that's going to be usable. And that's actually one of the questions I have for this meeting. Is there a more efficient way to do that? And so we're also looking at doing an engagement process for the campus food strategy, so lots of work within that context. And then in terms of challenges, I would actually say it's taking a lot of the student projects that were done over the winter and really figuring out how to best use them, and then taking a lot of what we did this winter into formalizing a process, which is more difficult than I thought it would be, just kind of taking all of the different pieces and putting it together. So I guess it's a good challenge. It's not a difficult challenge, it's just a time-consuming challenge. I would leave it at that.
All right, well, I think it's in good hands with you, Julie. But yeah, thanks. I really appreciate these are great questions, and I'm so excited to co-think together on this with applied student research. And I have in some experience in terms of navigating some of these, but I think we all collectively can think through and also criticize and question this. So really excited about that. All right, Les at Memorial.
For applied student research, we're in a lot of a planning stage right now. We've gotten into the conversations with most of the profs that are going to be conducting the courses next year. One of the things that we found successful with it was going on the actual MUN website, looking at the faculty and looking at their own research that they do outside of classwork and trying to get them passionate about that, connecting it back into classwork views or research that we can use. It's also mutually beneficial to our own. Right now it's kind of hard designing some of the courses. So it will be feasible at an undergrad level. We have a lot of great ideas that would work really well for grad students. We're just trying to make these more accessible to your class rather than just stuff that's very complex. So we're trying to form some linkages between different classes so they can potentially work together, or potentially projects that aren't going to last one semester but go forward. But that's kind of where we're at right now. I did have an experience last semester working with a class that did applied student research based around fisheries sustainability with the small-scale fisheries with the FAO, trying to redefine the guidelines in a more accessible manner to students and the general public. It was very well received from the class by some students. However, the project was a little vague. It wasn't designed by our CFSG coordinators. It was kind of designed by the class and the prof. I think it went very well. Divided up in the group. But it was trying to get talk with the prof afterward to understand not just a small project, or I say small project, but it's a small project that's much larger. Yeah, I will have to jump off this call a little early. Ethan's picking me up in about a half hour. We have a quick meeting we have to sneak in before going to Batteries Night to talk with the community partner about getting in on community kitchen at one of our new buildings. So just to give you a heads up.
Thanks for that, Ethan. Yeah, really exciting getting to go out and chat with a really great restaurant to see how you can collaborate with the community kitchen. So thanks exciting project. And really great to have some experiences from Ethan and Jada on what your experience was being a student in ASR as well, and what that meant for you. So we'll dig into that. All right, last but not least, Tori.
Okay. Hi. So, me and Mel last year, we just came on in January, so we haven't had any experience with applied student research, and I'm not too sure if our the old CFSG has either. So we're all kind of new to this, but we really have a bunch of good ideas that we want to get going. And we're just kind of starting, we just need like the groundwork stuff, like what teachers do we ask, like what do we ask, do we design the course, do we ask them to design the course, like what should the course entail, just like general knowledge about the whole process, I would say. Just trying to think of anything else. And maybe also like further ideas, like what you guys are wanting to do for applied student research projects, just to get kind of like a different sense of what's going on at different universities. Because we are doing some here, but it's more a lot of audits we want to do, so nothing really too out of the loop, just kind of some basic stuff right now, but just what you guys are doing at different universities. I think that's about it.
Awesome, thank you so much. Okay, well, great diversity of things and questions, and yeah, I just kind of wanted to open this conversation up by giving a little bit of a quick overview of applied student research, why it's such a core part of the program, and then a lot of our experiences with it, both great experiences and also some of the challenges. So please stop me at any time if you have a question or if you have a comment. Your comments would be really, really welcome, and thoughts on this. And then I'm thinking we could kind of dig in a little bit more into some of the issues that you guys raised collectively. Sound like a good process?
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. So first of all, applied student research is really unique to the university. So in our work with farm to cafeteria work on procurement change, there's hospitals, there's schools doing this, there's some municipalities, but it's really universities that actually have this incredible resource of students, student learning, professors' research that's able to answer a lot of the hugest challenges and barriers that are facing food systems change. So everything from distribution challenges to how do we increase technology, to how do we increase transparency, to what are the policies that are affecting and limiting our ability to procure food both on an institutional level but also on a provincial level. There's a lot of questions that are out there in our broken food system, but also ones that are arising. And also often when you find the answer to one thing, it leads to about 20 more questions. So the greatest thing for us with the Campus Food Systems project is how can we unlock the potential of the university to be able to give students a really great learning experience, a hands-on learning experience, but also answer some very fundamental questions to find solutions to our food systems challenges. And this has happened in a variety of ways. And so the ASR toolkit that has just been redesigned is trying to be as open as possible. So we use the word applied student research, but other places call it different things: community service learning, experiential learning. And the reason we call it applied student research is because we really believe that the students should definitely have a really great experience, as with community service learning and experiential learning, but the results should be tangible, and the community should come first. The students, by focusing on great stakeholder relationships and a great welcoming community, the students should be having a wonderful experience. So that's sort of our approach on it. If it feels more comfortable, to work with a different term, we're really open to that, and definitely let us know. Often we see community service learning happening with community partners outside of the university, which is something we definitely encourage, but I'm going to be focusing mainly on within the university. Just sort of a disclaimer for outside of the university, it's really, really important to understand what the community organization is getting out of the relationship. A lot of times by sending 40 students to go research a farm for a day or a community food bank, it's more that the students are learning and it's an experience for the students rather than helping. It can often take like 2 days of preparation on the organization time. So just being very cognizant of the fact that those students are interested and it's wonderful, and those processes, you know, can and should happen. You really need to appreciate and realize that the organization is doing the students a favor in most cases. So, so that's something, and we can have a totally different discussion on community university partnerships. There's a lot of really interesting research out there. So I'll leave that for now, and maybe pass on a few papers about that if you are interested. So applied student research is what we'll focus on, is essentially looking at some of the biggest challenges within your food system, and you as Campus Food Strategy Group coordinators are often exposed to a lot of those, is taking stock of some of these questions and figuring out how they can be solved by the university. And so a great thing that we really encourage is just as challenges come up for you to jot them down, and to be really excited of that could be a learning opportunity. And then as we said, figuring out who is out there and who can help you answer that question, both in terms of professors, and I love what Les said about figuring out what sort of professors are there. Often some professors are farmers, some professors sit on boards of really important organizations in the city. Some professors, Les, what was the professor she developed Off the Hook?
Chpanji?
Yeah. Oh, I think you're muted. Sorry.
Oh, am I?
No, you're all good now.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. It was Ratana Chpanji. And just through being in her class, I found out she works with the FAO and the UN, working on sustainable small-scale fisheries. So she had some really big connections with that. She actually ended up bringing in people from the Norway delegation for the FAO to our class to speak and stuff like that, and tried to bring our research not only within the school, but tried to bring that to an international organization and other countries to see how they could use what we were doing. Yeah, so that was a very, very, very great experience. Not everyone in the class got out of it what you could get, but those of us that really got engaged with it, it really defined what we did and how that course went for everyone.
Awesome. Fantastic. Yeah, so researching professors and figuring out who's out there and what sort of resources you have on campus can be really important, as well as Les said, just talking to people and figuring out their connections. If a professor doesn't have time and capacity, chances are they might have some graduate students or students who could help work on these projects. And then being able to connect. Sorry guys, there's lots of background noise today in the city. Being able to connect and share out these ideas and figure out how it's going to land is really important. So I know at many universities, Dalhousie specifically, they have courses that are really focused on solutions. There are already courses that exist where the professors are used to this. They use campus as a living lab to answer questions. So a suggestion there is really working with these professors to hone down on what's the end product. What would you really like to see? In other cases, you may have lots of ideas, and I'm thinking maybe UNBC in this case, and it might be useful to bring a variety of professors together and just pose a list of your questions and say, these are what we're trying to solve right now. Does anyone know people? Like, how can we find solutions to this? And just putting this out, whether it be on a listserv or it be in person with a group of researchers, can be really important. Another opportunity is working with a dean or someone a bit higher up who has a bit more of a bird's eye view to be able to bring forward some of these questions. But the caution there, as we learned from Memorial last year, is sometimes that information does not get passed down. So a suggestion to navigate that would be working with maybe a high-level individual to identify who you need to work with, and then you actually going and really meeting and setting up standards. Is all of this sort of making sense or sounding, if any of it's like redundant, let me know. So once you've identified a few questions, you've figured out who you want to work with. My first feeling would be start small and be very focused and figure out what your end product is going to be. And the really cool thing, some of the most successful ASR projects we've seen have been things like a graphic design logo or a poster. Something that might not seem that academic, it's not a formal 40-page paper, but it's going to be so much more useful to you than a whole bunch of research. So think about what sort of different types of projects and different types of end product you want out of that relationship, and make it really, really clear with the professor what that's going to look like. And how that information is going to go back and forth. We have seen in some cases professors actually be interested in writing sort of memorandums of understanding between the campus food strategy group and students. So what the end product is going to look like, how many meetings they'll be had, what the responsibilities and roles are of those involved. That's a really formal process, and if anyone feels like that would be useful, we can definitely craft one up together. That's an option. But my experience with applied student research, I guess I'll tell that story in just a second. But it was very informal, always. So we talked about the ideas, the people, what the end product is going to look like, as well as, I guess, the process is really important. So with applied student research, some of it can be research that you guys actually won't use. Something that's been really effective has been, how can you utilize students to really support your work? And one idea is getting classes out to your events. Getting journalism students out to a community meeting or a town hall or a community kitchen, and writing up a paper about their experience. What that does is if you want a lot of people out, it'll automatically get a lot of people out, and it'll probably expose a really wide variety of people to your project. We've seen that most people in applied student research projects really feel empowered by it, and actually about 6 coordinators have come on to be campus food strategy group coordinators or dedicated volunteers because they've been in an applied student research project. So it's a really great way to build student engagement. So that's sort of like a really broad overview, and I think we should dig into the questions in a like almost right away. I just wanted to share briefly my experience with applied student research and why I'm a really big advocate of it, and then I want to dig into some of the challenges. Any questions, and I can send this out in very succinct notes after, any questions or things that you're not agreeing with or things you want to echo? Or if you are happy, just Thumbs up. Awesome. So I, in the summer of 2009, met with our chef, and he said, I don't want to serve the last Chilean sea bass. I really care about seafood. I'm really interested, but I don't have any time or capacity to do anything about it. And so I was like, oh, I'm not a sea expert by any means. I've never eaten seafood. I don't really know what's going on. So I'm going to go to a course. And I went to a course that was very focused on solving problems. It was a solution-based course that was over 4 months. You came with a question, and the students were to find solutions. And I met with a professor who was very open and very interested in lots of meetings with the stakeholders and supporting students on having them navigate the system. We also identified a few students who were going to be in the course and knew they would be in the course and knew they were strong students who had a great understanding of food security, and contacted them and asked them to come to our course or to choose the project that we chose. We made that very clear to the director of the program and said, we really want strong people. We know these people. Can they get class credit for it? Then that led to, we brought the chef on board. I ended up actually doing a ton of preliminary research, which I'm not sure was necessary, but I basically did a baseline of what information is out there, and I met with suppliers during the summer to set things up, and I created a folder for them of all of the research and where we were at on that, and then a whole bunch of questions. And then we brought everyone together. And then I just took a big step back. I was at that first meeting. The chef asked the questions. There was the executive chef there, the manager of sustainability, 2 of the purchasing chefs, because they would be purchasing a lot of the fish, our fish supplier, and the students. And we just all sat down together and we're like, well, what are the challenges? Where is everyone at? Let's be honest and open. And what would we like to see out of it? Like, yes, we want to be serving sustainable seafood, but what does that really mean? And what it boiled down to was that the chefs would need to know when they purchased, when they sent in their order, that they were getting sustainable seafood. They just wanted to know that. And it needed to be easy, and it needed to be done weekly, and we went through the menus and figured out, you know what, they still need salmon, they still need cod, but maybe they wouldn't need haddock once in a while. I mean, haddock's one of the most sustainable fish. But, we sort of went through all of that. And it was a really great first meeting. And we left that meeting with everyone feeling excited. We sort of had a point person. People identified what they were interested in researching. And I took a huge step back. I was available by email, but that was sort of how I felt about my role. And then I came in, I guess, at the end, and there was this awesome paper written. There was lots of information, lots of suggestions, lots of conversations, and that was it. And then the students were done their course, they got an A, it was great, but we didn't have it yet. And so we established that in our roundup meeting. Like, it was great, it was en route, but the solution wasn't there. And so we identified 3 students in that group of 8 who were committed to seeing this through. And it took a bit of coaching, saying, like, you know what, the chef is invested. This is huge. Like, this is the potential to not only build on your course, but this is your potential to, like, tell an amazing story of your impact on this university. And then we got the chef really excited about the potential of this happening, and he ended up hiring one of the students to implement this. And Will, who was a wonderful student, ended up being one of my colleagues in the movement on campus, and worked on a variety of different sustainability initiatives with the food services, but fish was his be-all and end-all. And what they decided is that Marine Stewardship Council certification was the best fit for McGill. And this student ended up getting, like, basically everyone on board. He was able to translate their research, and the 4 months to the sustainability manager, to the director of ancillary services, to our suppliers. So everyone started to get on this track. Took a year and a half, and it took the certification of not only the university but also all of our distributors, which has led to most of the hotels and hospitals now buying certified sustainable fish in Montreal, because that information was out there. So that was almost a 2-year process, from conception to realization. But enough people got excited about it that it happened, and it's one of McGill's proudest stories now. So that was a really positive experience. But just to say, you guys are, if you're just starting and like, well, how is this going to be implemented? It can take a long time. The other applied student research project I was involved in was one that 4 of my friends and I wanted to craft ourselves. We wanted to create a community kitchen on the agricultural campus at McGill, and it seemed like nothing really had happened, but we got really inspired and made a website and told all these people about it, and it's called the Out of the Garden Project. I actually just got an email from my professor from that course this morning, who told me that there are now 2 bakeries on campus, from students who've grown their own wheat and beet sugar, and it's a really cool process. So it takes time, and that's why in this toolkit we really want to focus on the coordination of this, and that's going to be really important in institutionalization. So it can be an interested professor, it could be an interested student who wants to continue this, it can be an interested stakeholder, or it can be the campus food strategy group that takes on this role of coordination and institutionalization. So that is some of my learning so far in the process, but I want to dig into some of the questions you guys brought up, and maybe any questions you guys have at this point. That was sort of a utopic experience. Of course, there's a lot of struggle, and a lot of times applied student research projects, like, even though they're really well intentioned, are just too much information. So last point I'm going to say is I just we do some applied student research on a higher level, like with what's happening on the national level, and we have public policy students doing that work, and we've had reports done by them before, and they're wonderful, really well researched, but they're 40 pages, and I don't have time to read 40 pages nor know what to do with that information. So this time I asked them at the get-go to prepare a 6-page document after a year of research, and ask them like incredibly specific questions, and that to me is so much more useful, that 6 pages, than a wider scope. So I guess my key learnings are start small, it takes a long time, but get people inspired in the process. So would love to hear any thoughts, feedback, and then dig into some of your questions and ideas.
I'm going to jet out in a minute, but I'll quickly make a couple points. Really interesting hearing about the Marine Stewardship Council certification. We actually had a similar experience here at MUN when we were getting bidders certified to be LEAF certified. I wasn't involved in it, but they were going through and looking through the product baselines. Actually, the students and the GSU went and took the time to find out where this cod was coming from. It was coming from New Zealand because their certification in New Zealand was more sustainable than Newfoundland cod. So we were just through looking up. Just that little bit of research through that, we were able to go back, find out the differences between the certifications and stuff like that. We actually, that is one of our applied student research for the fall, is looking between the different certifications available in Newfoundland, and then moving forward to what our dining hall and people on campus should be going with, and why. Certified for specific products, and what might be more sustainable of a product that doesn't have a certification. It's still a more products. The students engaged in that conversation, actually talk to suppliers, talk about them. Just one more point before I run out because he's on his way. One of the projects we have on the go, it's adapted from a McGill project. They did a Google map of all of the local producers and suppliers of food. We brought I think it was McGill, it might have been University of Toronto, but we took that to a prof and asked him to do a community planning course, and he got really excited about it, and his ideas that spun off from that spun off into 7 or 8 different courses, as using it first, gathering the information, getting a large data set of who the local producers are, and where they're located. One course we had the idea was a computer science course, turn this into an app. Another one was a mapping course and identify areas of highest population of food density, stats combined with debt affordability in Newfoundland's a big issue. So they want to find areas where there's a lot of local producers, however, employment is low. So try to connect that back to community and government. So a lot of ideas spanned off of this really tiny thing, and so we got the ball rolling, but it was really what we found so far of that we've been able to collecting the data and getting all the information available in one class so that they can take that data in another class or grad student to have it useful. Like the collection of the data seemed something feasible for undergrad students. In a 3rd or 4th year course, it wasn't too daunting to ask to start small. And us, as well as the university and other students, they communicate, and we already have professors talking to collaborate on getting data, processing it in a variety of ways. So I guess anyone wants to talk about that, about getting data sets together, applied student research and the basis of it. I'd love to read the notes later, but Ethan's waiting for me outside. So have fun, everybody. Pleasure to meet with you all again.
Thanks, Ethan. Or sorry, thanks, Les. Have a good time with Ethan. And yeah, thank you for that. That's really interesting. Starting small with data and seeing where it can go and see if it can a professor can connect it through. So thanks so much. We'll send along the notes after.
Perfect. Have a good one, guys.
Awesome. Okay. Awesome. Julie, are you any thoughts there?
Yeah, I've been writing down a ton of different things as the conversations are going, including getting that applied student research project about the community kitchen from you, perhaps at a different time. Am I breaking up?
No, sorry. There's just
Okay.
trucks going by here.
Okay. Oh. Yeah. I'm on campus and the internet isn't always ideal. We're good? Okay, wonderful. Yeah, I think some of the biggest things and takeaways that we learned this past semester is just having the projects be very specific, having very specific deliverables, but then also really understanding what the course objectives are and catering the project a little bit more towards meeting those, but also within that, getting what we require. So for example, we did a baseline assessment of our food system, which was quite extensive. So we tried to get a few different pieces that students could work on. On the class that we worked on, they had 20 hours for a project related to environment. And so we had 6 students working with us. But their end piece for what they had to hand in was simply a written 2-page document about their experience, so they didn't actually have to generate any deliverables except for that. And so even though the project that everyone agreed on had deliverables for the campus, or I guess for the baseline assessment, it wasn't actually required for the course. So we had a few challenges getting the data and the information that we needed, and we're still actually in the process of collecting that and analyzing it and actually putting it in our draft report. So there's some learning things in regards to that, like really understanding the course objectives and trying to find a way to meet both needs so that there's not too much work for the coordinator, both prepping for the class projects as well as after. So that was why I had posed the question, how do you transition the project outcome into something that's usable? And I think that both prepping before the class project and really understanding are all part of that, how to transition the information. But yeah, so I've been writing down little tidbits mostly. And then I guess the other thing is that we are really trying to formalize the applied student research process on our campus, because there's just tangents happening and a lot of interest, but a lot of profs are a bit skeptical to come on board because they're not sure who's going to be coordinating the project. They want to be someone to assist the student, and so that is something that we're dealing with, as well as making sure that we're connecting with all of the right people in regards to making this a holistic, inclusive, formalized process. And so identifying who those people are, and then we're developing a food service committee, so we want to make sure that ASR is part of the food service committee. So there's a lot of different things going on. I actually have a mind map of everything that is happening, just so I can try to conceptualize what the next steps need to be and then prioritizing those next steps. So ASR at the U of M is a bit chaotic right now. And yeah, so I guess there were questions, challenges, and we're just trying to figure out what the best way is to move forward. Oh,